Hello, so today we're going to talk about Pluto conjunct the Ascendant. So what is the Ascendant? The Ascendant is our physical appearance, how we come across. It also defines our personality to an extent, and it's really what we incarnate. And Pluto represents deep psychology, traumas, transformation, healing, the dark side of life, the shadow side of life, deep sexuality. So trigger warning for trauma, abuse, all sorts of abuse, violence, you got it. So what happens when you have Pluto conjunct the Ascendant or Pluto in the first house? So usually physically, these people, they tend to have a very magnetic, brooding sort of presence. You know, they have a very piercing gaze. They have depths in their eyes. There's something intimidating, hypnotic, or even silent about their presence. You know, they don't have to do much to make an impression. Now, compared to the personal planets like Sun, Moon, Venus, etc., I found that the outer planets, such as like Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, they don't really give very specific traits that you know, like the shape of a face or anything like that. It's more about an aura that they have. And for Pluto, really, we have this aura of mystery, of depths, power, sexuality as well. Definitely, there's something very seductive about Pluto in general. So to give you an example, Sharon Stone, she has Pluto conjunct the Ascendant. She has been known to be this sex symbol, and it's a big part of her image and also, you know, who she is, I think. Benedict Cumberbatch, you know, Benedict Cumberbatch, he has this brooding presence. There's this depth to him. He has a very deep voice, you know, there's a kind of darkness about him. Beyonce also, very commanding presence, very powerful, but also, you know, very sensual, beautiful. So, looking at their background and early life, now we tend to see different things. Now, I just want to say that, you know, if I talk about certain things that are traumatic, it doesn't mean that because you have Pluto conjunct the Ascendant, you're going to go through that, or these people necessarily went through that. But usually Pluto, because it is a planet that shows the shadow side of life, taboo, you know, kind of things that are very dark about humanity, we tend to see children who are exposed to things that they are too young to see, or you know, difficult things, traumatic things, and things that really leave this psychological imprint on them. So one thing that I've seen with Pluto conjunct the Ascendant is that we tend to see a lot of people who grow up in, you know, difficult neighborhoods, such as like neighborhood where there's drug trafficking or prostitution, you know, things that a kid shouldn't necessarily know about. So there's this exposure to, especially I've seen sexuality, things like that. I've seen a lot of sexual abuse, unfortunately. So Sharon Stone, she's a survivor of sexual abuse. Also weird family dynamics, you know, like power struggle between parents, with closed ones, with siblings even, being used also by the family to gain money. That's something that you see a lot, and wanting to please the parent even though they're kind of using the child. So yeah, what can I give you for an example in terms of celebrity? We have, well, Leonardo DiCaprio. He grew up in a very violent, impoverished neighborhood, so that's more about the exposure to difficulty. Judy Garland, who was this child actor, right? There was a lot of emotional abuse, there was a lot of exploitation by the studio executives from childhood. Justin Bieber as well. Like, I don't know about his exact relationship with his you know, his parents. I know he was raised by a young single mother, but you know, there was this very harsh exposure at a very young age, and he was super criticized, you know, so this is very difficult. Keanu Reeves as well. He went through so many things, lost so many family members. His sister was ill. These people, they really experience a lot of things that shape their psychology. There's this sort of like mafia type of wrong side of the tracks kind of vibe with Pluto. This is the bad girl, the bad boy kind of thing. But yeah, these people, so what is their personality like? So these people, first thing that I've noticed, they're very private. These people are very, very private. They're emotionally intense. They're secretive. There is a lot of fears with Pluto. Pluto is all about protecting yourself, and also a need for control over how others perceive them. So usually they're going to use something, whatever it is, to control the narrative, and it's not necessarily going to be a bad thing, but there is, and it's often a subconscious thing as well. It's not something that they do necessarily willingly. It really comes from these deep, again, these traumas. Sometimes it can even be, generational traumas, that something that even if they had an easy childhood, it's something that has been sort of given to them through generations. So yeah, these people, they're very emotionally deep, very intense, and they tend to want to dig deeper than just the surface in general. These people, they are intelligent, and they're especially emotionally intelligent. So they're the kind of people who, if there is some kind of issue, or if there is some kind of topic where somebody did something wrong or whatever, they're going to want to dig deeper than just the surface, and they're not happy with just, it's black and white. That's not enough for them. They're going to want to see why this person did this, what was the reason, for example, if someone committed a crime, they're going to want to dig into the background of the criminal. They're going to want to understand his psychology, that kind of thing. Always digging deeper. So these people, you see them a lot, they're very good psychologists, for example, and they're very interested in the dark side of life, in criminality, these kind of things, usually they're also very rebellious and confrontational. That's something that I've noticed. They can be provocative. They like to get a reaction. And so these people, then, they're rarely super easygoing. They can even bring up kind of taboo topics, things that people are not necessarily super comfortable about, like things that people don't talk about or that are hush, they're going to bring it up. So something they bring a lot, honestly, is sex. I've seen that they talk a lot about sexuality, and I'm sure they see that it's something that people are not necessarily comfortable about, but they're going to talk about anyway, So yeah, what else can I tell you about their personality? They have very strong survival instincts. These people, they are definitely survivors, warriors, very resilient. They're kind of all or nothing as well. So it's interesting because they're not necessarily black and white when it comes to understanding people and the psychology of people and how certain systems works and all that. But when it comes to doing things, they tend to be all or nothing. And they can be also workaholics as well. That's something I've noticed. They're going to give their all when it comes to certain tasks, and then they can shut down. Actually, they sort of operate from fear a lot of the time, because Pluto is about these deep fears. So there is this mix of strengths and vulnerability, and that's something that you see a lot with the sign of Scorpio as well. Scorpio has this kind of dark, villainous, sometimes even reputation. But Scorpio is actually also a sign that if you dig deeper with Scorpio, you will see that a lot of the times there is a vulnerability. They're rarely just the villain. There's always something else, something that is more sensitive, something that is more yeah, like if vulnerable, fragile even. So that's something that you see with Pluto as well. This mix of strength and vulnerability. So to give you an example, Rafael Nadal, he's known for being like this great, this great tennis player, but he also has a fear of deep water. He has fear of darkness, you know. So it's interesting because it's not the kind of thing that you would expect with such a person. Other examples I can give you, Mitski, the singer, she avoids social media completely, so very private. That's what I was telling you about. Obviously, her songs are very Plutonian. It's very deep. It's very emotional. It's very painful. So usually we see career where these people, they want to break taboos in their fields. They want to dig deeper, like I said. So they can do really well with psychology, anything involving also the darker side of life. So it can be healing. They can, like I said, they're very resilient and they're not afraid to touch on darker things. And actually, sometimes they even thrive in, difficult conditions, or, talking about difficult subjects. So yeah, psychologists, healers of some sort, working with people who are disabled, or even working in a hospital. Sexuality as well can be a theme that they can work with. And they have the potential to achieve a lot, these people, they really have, because they have this sort of all or nothing, so they can really work a lot, and they're very ambitious and they're very passionate, they're emotionally invested. So they can become a very powerful figure. But something that I've noticed as well is they can have hiatuses. They can sometimes put their career on the stop, and then they come back to it, or they do something different. But there's usually this theme of transformation, or sometimes crisis in their life, in every field of life, but especially because their personality is so intense. They have these moments where even the body, because Pluto is on the Ascendant, and the Ascendant is the body can even be put on a stop, and that's something that I've noticed actually. Two of these people that I've looked up had facial paralysis, and I know someone with Pluto on the Ascendant who went through the same thing. And the reason why this person that I know went through this is because this is someone who is extremely fast-paced and intense, and again, like I said, all or nothing, who gives her all in her career. So yeah, it's like the body was like, yeah, calm down, you're going full stop now. So it's like all or nothing, really. Yeah, Justin Bieber had that as well. Christopher Reeve as well. He's known for that, so you can see that. So yes, like I said, they can work with the theme of sexuality. So of course, when looking at the celebrities, you see a lot of great icons who sex symbols, like Sharon Stones, like I said, Sydney Sweeney as well, the Marquis de Sade, who is known, very well known for his own take on sexuality as well. He has Pluto on the Ascendant. So yeah, things that they can go through, though, they can go through a lot of psychological ups and downs. Judy Garland, like I said, she went through a lot. There was this physical transformation, chronic disease as well, autoimmune diseases. That's something you can see a lot with Pluto, because there's usually a lot of psychological things to deal with. So this is really what these people have to work with, when it comes to career as well. Like I said, these people can go through a hiatus. That's something that I've seen quite a lot, even with people that I know. So yeah, I'm going to give you this quote by Mitski, who wanted to quit music completely, but in the end she returned to it. So this is what she said. She said, "I have to do this even though it hurts me, because I love, this is who I am. I'm going to keep getting hurt, and I'm still going to do it." you know. So this is peak Pluto. And she sings about very angsty, deep, dark emotions, unrequited love as well. Yeah, that's another thing, you know, talking about their relationships. So when it comes to relationships, I haven't noticed anything like really major or really like a recurring pattern, which is rare because usually I tend to find something, but here I didn't really. So what I've seen with people that I know personally who have Pluto conjunct the Ascendant is that they love fully. Again, very Plutonian. It's kind of all or nothing. So very passionate. But there tends to be some pain involved. There can be healing. There usually is a first relationship or early relationships that are a bit chaotic, you know, like difficult, or they tend to be attracted to people who are difficult, or they themselves can be, you know, like the problematic person, so to speak, like the person who you know, needs healing or needs to, you know, see a therapist or something like that. And so yeah, we have this sort of like tumultuous relationships. But yeah, later on in life, I actually find that these people, they can be very good partners. You know, there's a lot of healing. There's still passion. There's still sexual passion, even with age. So that's pretty cool for them. So yeah, when it comes to later on in life, like the legacy that they leave, especially like the famous people, certainly we have some major icons. So Alexander the Great, to say the least, that's one of like the most famous person ever. Leonardo DiCaprio, obviously, Justin Bieber, Beyonce, Nikola Tesla as well. Now he's not exactly an icon, but he's someone who is very important, major person. Pluto on the Ascendant, it's a difficult placement, I would say. It's definitely one of the most difficult. With Saturn, Mars is also was also quite difficult, but I would say with Saturn, Pluto, Uranus as well was pretty difficult. These were the most definitely the people who went through the most that I've seen. And yeah, with Pluto, definitely we see these big themes of deep psychology. Honestly, as I went through all the different planets, there wasn't really any big surprises when it comes to the planets. The people really embody the planets. So sometimes we saw a few things or a few particular things, you know, specificities, but it was still fitting the theme as we know of these planets. So yeah, people with Pluto on the Ascendant, tough people, you know, they're not these easygoing people, but they're very, very deep, very intelligent, very interesting people. So that's it for Pluto conjunct the Ascendant. That's it for this series as well, and I will see you later with some new videos. Bye.